Good morning, Dan and Amy. So JRB, the big guy, had a town hall sponsored by CNN last night. Gloria Vanderbilt's kid moderated, tried to provide as much aid as was available. Joe Biden on gas prices, anything he can do to bring down the artificially high price of gas.
Anyway, so but I must tell you, I don't have a near-term answer. There's two things I could do. I could go in the petroleum reserve and take out and probably reduce the price of gas maybe 18 cents or so a gallon. It's still going to be above $3. Oh. And one of the things that I refused to have happen because I didn't want anybody, I made a commitment, if you pass the stuff I'm talking about, not one single penny in tax would go against anybody making less than $400,000. And so if you notice, these highway bills are not paid for by gas tax. They're paid for by direct expenditures in other areas. So the average person doesn't have to pay more. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. There's a possibility to be able to bring it down. Depends on a little bit on Saudi Arabia and a few other things that are in the offing.
Saudi Arabia? I thought we were trying to get away from, foreign dependence on oil.
So I can bring it down another 18 cents, eliminate or put on holiday the federal gas tax. That's 18 cents a gallon. And Saudi Arabia. So this is the Saudi Arabia that the left was critical of with respect to George W. Bush for being too accommodating of Saudi Arabia. This is the left that was hyperventilating during the Trump years about Trump not being tough enough on MBS after he had Jamal Khashoggi, that so-called journalist, assassinated. And now we're in a position because Joe Biden cancels pipelines and Joe Biden puts pauses on oil leases on federal lands, which he did as almost a first order of business upon taking office, where we have to go back and rely on Saudi Arabia to provide the supply that's needed to meet demand to reduce price. And this guy is a joke.
Yeah, and there's one California town, it's called Gorda, California. Gas is now $7.59 a gallon, $8.50 for premium.
That doesn't even contemplate the inflationary aspect of the jump in prices.
Right.
But no worries. See, he doesn't need to worry about bringing it down in the short term because real wages are rising, he says.
So what you see is wages are actually up for those who are working because for the first time in a long time, employees are able to bargain. You're the boss. You want me to work for you? What are you going to pay me? How are you going to do it? I'm not being facetious.
I can't stand him. I mean, he's repulsive at this point.
You should have hoped you were being facetious because if you weren't being facetious, then you're just ignorant or you're lying, one of the two. As the Wall Street Journal noted correctly this week, once you factor in the previously referenced inflation, worker wages are actually down 2% since Joe Biden took office because of those price increases on things like the pump. For more on the topic, we're pleased to be joined by our friend and professor of economics at the University of Chicago, Casey Mulligan. He served as the chief economist of the White House Council of Economic Advisors from 2018 to 2019. And he's the author of the book, You're Hired, Untold Successes and Failures of a Populist President. Casey, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan and Amy.
So, in his disjointed response on gas prices, he makes an appeal for passing the $1.2 trillion Green New Deal against the backdrop of whatever the number is going to be on the other spend-a-thon. And this is how we're going to, I guess, improve infrastructure, reduce prices by spending more money that is manufactured out of thin air, and increase real wages.
Yeah, I mean, he has it backwards, but I guess he gets to say whatever disconnected from the truth. I mean, this Green New Deal is a very expensive way to make energy, not just the gas in your car, but the electricity in your house, in your business. We're going to need a lot more resources to make every megawatt hour under the Green New Deal plan because, I mean, the Europeans have shown us the way this summer California has shown us the way after several summers. It's very tough to create energy in these convoluted ways.
And the other thing that's disingenuous to be most generous, as generous as I can be about this, is when you're talking about increasing prices at the pump and increasing prices to heat and light your home, you're talking about backdoor tax increases that are disproportionately impactful on people making much less than $400,000.
There's no doubt that energy is a share of the budget. Energy for middle and low income people is a big chunk, and for the wealthier people, it's not such a big share. And their backdoor tax increases. Where's the money go? I mean, it goes to these various climate boondoggle companies, and those are the cronies in the party. So it might as well be on the budget as a tax and a spend, crony capitalism spend.
Well, what's the name of some of the companies?
Well, Tesla, main way Tesla makes money is selling credits to other companies so that they can help them comply with all these regulations.
Right. I mean, we've known this for years. What we have the federal government doing is taking money from middle-income families to subsidize wealthier people buying $90,000 Teslas. And we call that, improving fairness of tax and spend policy somehow.
That's right. I think America understands this very well. They don't have much of a voice in Washington, but everybody understands that these Green New Deal approaches are really going to come to their doorstep, and they're going to bear the burden of it.
You recently wrote in the Journal, actually we talked about it a little bit yesterday with your friend Steve Moore, or Wednesday with your friend Steve Moore, that the other $1 trillion spend, the so-called Build Back Better, that would actually negatively impact the labor market. You're subsidizing the wrong things and punishing the wrong things. Explain.
Yeah, I mean, the headline just was today that it doesn't look like they'll be able to pass any tax increases, but they are going to be able to pass hidden ones. And we talked about a few hidden ones around energy, but the other hidden ones are where they take away your benefits. The more you work, the more you earn, the more benefits they take away. And the Build Back Better bill has about a dozen programs in there: child care, housing, energy, especially Obamacare expansion. And all these cases, the more you earn, the less you're going to receive. So they might as well just send you a tax bill.
I mean, specifically, just in terms of, all the talk is always of 1%ers and billionaires, but the real target initially, the target ultimately is going to be, everybody between 40 and 150. But the target initially is the upper quintile income earners that are nowhere near the top 1%, but that are people that are doing well by operating family businesses, for example. So we're talking about people that have six-figure household incomes, but that's because they're productive, they're an employer, they're producing a good or a service that people want, and they're employing people doing it. That's who it seems to me, from reading about this, bears the brunt of this.
That's true. There's an awful lot on that group, but there's plenty in there for the people earning between 50 and 100. There's a lot of benefits you won't get. One thing I talked about is the child care program is really so severe that a lot of couples want to think about, should we be married? If we're unmarried, maybe our income goes from 90 as a household to 45 each. And if we're not married, then we get the free child care. But if we're married, we're at 90 and we don't get it.
And so you looked at all the subsidies. You write the additional subsidies for food, along with medical coverage, housing, decrease as household earns more income, providing more disincentive for working. The implicit employment and income taxes, from a total of 13 such measures, would add almost 8 percentage points to the marginal tax rate on labor income. I mean, so that is a massive hidden or conglomeration of hidden taxes that all add up to 8 percentage points. That's a big number.
That is big because it's an average. So there'll be plenty of people in there getting 30 or 40 percentage points and others getting fewer. But the overall average, counting every American, is 8 points. We haven't seen that. If you go back to 1942, when we really brought the income tax out of the drawer and applied it to pretty much everyone, that's the last time we've seen that many percentage points added to the disincentive to working.
And so, I mean, what's your handle on the net impact on growth if anything close to what has been proposed becomes law?
Well, these 8 points relate most to employment, and we estimate there will be 9 million less employment if the bill passes versus not passing due to that 8 percentage points. I mean, there's many other aspects of the bill that make us less productive. So even those of us who continue to work won't have as high of real wages, we won't be as productive, and we won't have the living standards. But the jobs part is 9 million.
9 million jobs lost as a result of this.
Yes.
And would this throw us into recession in terms of, I mean, does this push us into negative GDP growth territory?
Well, there would very likely be negative employment growth. Depends how quickly you phase that in. If you stretch 9 million out over 20 years, you might not push us into negative territory, but I would expect they would. The GDP is going to be mainly driven by some of these 9 million will be some of the lower wage people, so they don't count as much in GDP. The GDP will be driven by these productivity issues. So when are they phasing in the Green New Deal? You know, that'll be a big GDP negative once we're required to do things in unproductive ways. That by definition gives GDP a big hit.
And then also with the Build Back Better bill, if it's passed, that they're going to increase the child tax credit from $2,000 to $3,000 if kids are 6 and older. Who's going to pay for that? And why are they doing it? What's their reasoning?
Well, it's really hard to know what these congressional staffers, what they're thinking, because the things they write down are pretty nonsensical. But I expect that there's a desire to sneak universal basic income in there under a label that's maybe less offensive, like child tax credits. The big thing they're doing on the child tax credit, they're no longer requiring people to have income. That's been phased in, and meaning that for nothing you don't get a child tax credit. You need to get out there, get some income for the year, and then we'll help you out by adding to it with the child tax credit. They want to eliminate that, and that's going to be a big effect on your low-income families.
Right, another disincentive to work, as you were detailing. He is Casey Mulligan, professor of economics, University of Chicago, served as chief economist, the White House Council of Economic Advisors, 2018-2019. The book, You're Hired, Untold Successes and Failures of a Populist President. Professor Casey Mulligan, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Thanks, you too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. 30 years have passed since Justice Clarence Thomas was confirmed to the U.S. Supreme Court. His tenure there has been consequential indeed.